All right, welcome back, everyone. This is episode 3 of the Randy Forcier podcast. I'm Randy Forcier, residential loan officer with Norcom Mortgage, and I am very excited about my guest today. My guest is Jordan Brigham. He is the owner of Ace Handyman Services of Southern Maine. He has a really interesting story about how he got there, and I look forward to talking to him about that today. So welcome, Jordan. Thanks for coming on.
Randy, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to chat and honored to be on your podcast. So thank you.
Absolutely, man. Is this your first podcast?
It's my first podcast in probably 3 or 4 years. So I was in sort of a past life and a past business where I would jump on once in a while, but certainly my first podcast in the handyman lane.
Well, awesome, man. Well, thanks again for joining me. Yeah. Why don't you give everyone a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so I live in Portland, Maine with my wife and 2 little kids. We've been in Maine since 2019. And prior to that, I worked in the technology space for 15 plus years, really with a background in customer experience and processing and scaling up teams and sort of building teams within sort of sales and customer success. But I've had a huge side passion, I guess, many years in real estate and property improvements and sort of fix and flipping houses, if you will, and various things. So that got me into the lane of improving houses and handyman and things along those lines. So, we grew up watching like This Old House. And so now it's all on YouTube and you can figure everything out. So,
that's an interesting path to getting into what your business is, right? Because I bet you may be one of the only people that have a technology background, sales background, that all of a sudden owns a handyman services company.
Yeah.
You bring a totally different perspective to it where you're focused on client experience. I would think most people that have a handyman service, that's something they have no experience with. So you kind of attacking it from a different angle.
Yeah, I think at its core, like business is about knowing your market, understanding customers, and providing them a really good experience. No matter what it is that you do, you need to have a good product. The second part of business is hire people and build a team of individuals that know more than you do, right? So I think a lot of folks in the trades struggle because they're the expert, they're the product. They go out there and do it and not necessarily struggle with that, but they struggle to scale their business because they are the product. They are the plumber or the electrician or the carpenter or the general contractor.
And in this case, you're not
none of those things.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not the handyman. You're the guy that is scaling. You're the guy that's running the team and sorting out the business side of things. And you have the professional, the craftsman, you refer to them as, that go out and do those jobs.
Yeah.
I think it's a super interesting story.
I linked up with Ace. It all started with a fence. On one of my properties, we had done a major renovation. And my builder and contractor at the time, we were like 2 months beyond on this project. Mm-hmm. And so there were some things, little punch list things that were in scope, getting gutters up, getting a fence, painting the house, all things that sort of flew the coop because it's like, I need to move on to my next project. And so this sort of takes you back to the original question, takes to the tech side of things. So I started looking for people online, fence contractors, using Angie's List and Porch and Google and everything else to try and find reputable folks who had good businesses who could kind of help me with a fence repair or replacement. And I did the same thing for gutter, and I did the same thing for painting, and I did the same thing for probably 2 or 3 other things, right? So as a consumer, I found myself trying to get 4 or 5 minor projects done, and I was spending hours per day, certainly hours per week, trying to track people down. It wasn't a great experience in that it was really difficult to A, find people, and B, get a call back.
Yeah.
And that's really sort of what led me to the market opportunity where I said, hey, there really is an opportunity for these smaller to medium sized projects, the kind of the punch list of items, whether it's repairing or rebuilding a fence or fixing a cabinet door in your kitchen or installing a new light fixture. Everybody who has a home or a property probably could come up with 10, 12 different things that they want to fix or improve that don't necessarily require a general contractor or don't require a major remodel. And so I started looking into those business opportunities and came across the fact that Ace had recently acquired a company on the West Coast that had been around for 20 years. really successful and unique model called Handyman Matters, where the founder of that company actually came from the hospitality world and brought hospitality best practices into the fold with the trades, and grew that business very successfully in a franchise model. And Ace, being one of the most, if not the most trusted brand in hardware, was looking to kind of crack into the services side. They acquired the business in 2020 and started offering that up as an opportunity to invest in and open up territories. So I did that just about a year ago.
Yeah.
So 2021, is when I invested in that business, brought it to Maine, and we launched our first team and location in Scarborough in September of 2021.
And honestly, you guys must be slammed. I see it in my business. There's such a need for what you guys provide, and like you said, there's not a lot of people that do provide it in the way that you guys do. So you must find the business has been pretty good in the past year. Do you find it's hard to catch up with the projects that you have, or what's that been like?
Yeah, I think my goal for the year was for the whole 12 months, so October 2021 to October 2022, was to get 500 customers. We crossed that threshold in April. So we're sort of pacing at probably upwards of near 1,000 customers, I'd suspect. And with the southern sort of beach coastal communities getting an influx of people coming back, I mean, the phones are ringing off the hook.
That's awesome.
We're pretty busy.
Congratulations on that. So where is your territory?
Yeah, so over the last 6 months, we've been really Metro Portland, sort of Saco, Scarborough up to maybe Freeport. We've since sort of expanded our focus a little bit more, where we're servicing areas in Point South in York County and as far north as Bath. But it's really sort of up and down the coast. We do have plans of expanding inland to sort of the lakes regions and things along those eventually. But yeah, right now we're kind of Metro Portland. We're servicing York County. By the end of this year, I plan to have an office in the Wells area and open up a second office. We, of course, can service. And then in 2023, opening up third teams, probably kind of the lower mid-coast area, be it Bath or Brunswick, kind of give us a little access to service over towards Harpswell, Booth Bay.
Yeah. I would think that those different areas present different opportunities for you, like that Southern Maine market. There's some second homes there, some maybe stuff where people are out of state and you're able to come in and fix some things for them, where Metro Portland is more homeowners, people are still there. How is it different from market to market for you?
Yeah, that was really the hypothesis, and I guess we're still vetting that out. The Scarborough area year-round is hot. It's also seasonal. Portland Metro, is a year-round. I mean, these are cities, these are communities, year-round communities, but there's a lot of influx. But yeah, there's certainly an influx of folks who are coming in, and we're getting more calls at Algonquin and New York and things along those lines.
Now, what stresses does that put on your craftsmen? I mean, you need to have guys or girls that can service these areas. Does that mean you're always looking to add new people?
Yeah, right now we have a team where we have 2 people that are sort of a little bit south of the Portland area and 2 that are in the Portland area. So we have a team in the field of 4. I could easily be at 8 people right now in terms of market demand. So we're always looking to hire, but we want to sort of hire craftsmen or craftswomen, craftspeople who have the ability to really have a nice, flexible environment where we can put them on jobs that are within, 20, 30 minutes, 20, 30 miles from their house, right? So we're not necessarily sending our guy who lives down in York County up to Brunswick. Yeah. So that's the challenge, is like every single business these days is hiring good people. I've been really fortunate it took a long time, but we built up an awesome team. Yep. Like, I'm so excited about our office staff and our team of craftsmen. They're like fantastic.
Yeah. I imagine that kind of builds up just like any business. There's a ramp up period, but once you like establish your reputation in the market, it must be easier for people, or there must be some familiarity with craftspeople out there that know what you guys offer and are more willing to like work with you to provide a service. Or how is that?
That's a really good point. I think there's a whole aspect of what Ace Handyman Services nationwide is trying to do, which is to bring something back to the trades that really is that idea of craft. And I think how many people think handyman and they might think someone who doesn't really know what they're doing or isn't really sort of skilled or isn't really a craftsman. And that's specifically why we call them, they're craftsmen. They're usually multi-skilled individuals, kind of carpenters by background or trade, but they are I would say they have an engineer mind. Like they get bored doing one thing. So a lot of them like built houses and built new construction houses, and that was boring. It's the same thing. And they like this work because every day presents a new challenge, a different job. And it, really allows them to kind of get creative. They're artists. They're artisans in that respect. So I like that, yes, we'll build our brand in the marketplace, and I hope we can kind of bring a little bit of a sort of incremental respect to what it is to be a handyman that maybe was lost over the last, few decades or whatever.
Now, about the jobs that you perform in the house, I know there's a number of them. What's that number that you guys do? It's very specific.
We say, it's over 1,162 jobs around the home. Yeah.
What doesn't that include then? I guess obviously not electric work. It's not. I mean, that's
we can do.
It's almost better to look at it as what it doesn't include instead of what it does, because basically
what doesn't include. Yeah, I mean, we really what makes our model unique is we draw the line at larger jobs. So if it's a half day, full day, small multi-day job, we can do it. So anyone who calls us and says, we want to do a little tiling project or a siding project, great, we can help you. If you're looking to do a major, re-siding of a whole house, that's where you want to contact a siding contractor, right? So, and we consult with our customers on that, so they don't have to worry about that. But we definitely don't do roofing work. We don't have our guys up there running around on roofs. We're running a legitimate business with insurance and healthcare, and we're covering all of that for our guys. So we don't want to put them in unnecessary risks. So we don't do roofing work or major roofing repairs, and that's kind of one key thing. And I think that's probably it. We usually sort of draw the line at major roofing work. Everything else we can do, but if it's a bigger job, that's when we say, hey, get a contractor who all they do is that. They'll just be able to knock it out.
But for those people that have a hit list, like you said, changing lights, doing floors in the bedroom, painting a room, that's right up your wheelhouse, it sounds like.
Exactly. Yeah. And we can do like minor electrical. A lot of people think swapping out a light fixture or something along those lines. Again, if it's a permitted rough and electrical work where you need a licensed electrician, we'll advise the customer on that. We have a great trade network of folks that we can recommend. Same thing on plumbing. If it's replacing a garbage disposal or a faucet or the toilet guts, as so many of our customers call them, the technical term toilet guts. We can do those things. We can swap out a new vanity. We can swap out a toilet. But if you're going to be making some changes to plumbing, that's where we draw the line.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Now, what are your main ways of marketing at this point? Right. We're obviously in a networking group together. Do you guys do any radio, print stuff? Is it just word of mouth at this point? What's that been like for you?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it kind of ties into a pretty sophisticated digital play. Where right out of the gates, we spend a decent amount of money with Google on pay-per-click and SEO optimization and things along those lines. So right now, we've got a pretty developed online digital presence. We're looking to refine that with more localized content, building out, like doing cool things like I want to launch something called like Craftsman Chronicles, doing some like localized content. To just make it a little bit better. But other than that, we haven't even scratched the surface with our brothers and sisters in the Ace Hardware store space. There's, 23 or 24 Ace Hardwares in just Southern Maine alone.
Where are the
Mainers love their Ace Hardware stores.
Well,
and so
we used to have an Ace Hardware store in Biddeford where I live, and we would go there all the time. It was easy to get in and out of. People were super helpful. Unfortunately, they closed that one, and I haven't been to an Ace Hardware since. So where are some of the closest Ace Hardwares? Is there one in Scarborough?
There's two in Scarborough. Yeah, the Johnsons own that. The one in Oak Hill and Dunstan. Further to the south, there's one in Kennebunk Ace Hardware. You've got one in Kittery.
So they're all over the place.
Eldridge has a bunch of locations to the south. And then as you go inland to York County, you have Plumber's Hardware, or a bunch of Aces. Then, of course, people in the Portland area know of Maine Hardware, which is one of the coolest hardware stores, in kind of a slightly urban environment, and the closest one to my house. You've got one in South Portland. There's a lot.
So that's like some low hanging fruit for you at some point to connect with them. And at that point, you'll be drinking from a fire hose, probably, with the amount of referrals that you get. I mean, I'd imagine that you are already, but once you kind of open up that avenue to new business, it just seems like sky's the limit.
Yeah, we have a link on Ace's e-commerce site. So if anyone were to go to Ace Hardware's e-commerce site and order something, There's a separate tab for handyman services. It's kind of cool to be plugged in with this national network. We just ran a 3-part national campaign with Traeger grills about, which is my favorite grill brand, about kind of backyard. And so that was really cool. We're not even really digging into that too much.
And besides that, I feel like people in my business, realtors are another avenue. I mentioned that before. I think I referred a friend of mine that's a realtor to you for a client need for him. There's got to be an avenue for business there at some point too.
And you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think what is part of all of our DNA in the ACE brand, which is important to me from a customer experience perspective and to our team, is being helpful, right? Like, so ACE is known as the helpful place, but I think we've hired a team and what is intrinsic across all of that is being helpful. And so that's really what we want to do, is connect with people. And we want to be the first stop, for lack of a better term, the first call for all things home that relate to home repairs. Whether we can do the job or not, we want to go above and beyond in providing our customers with a referral. So if you're a real estate agent and that's looking to fix up a house, we can help you with that. If you're looking to remodel or do something else, we can help you with that, but we might refer you to someone that we know.
I mean, I can relate to that in my business. I would like to be the person that when you want to buy a house, you come to me first, and I can hand out the referrals from there. If I can't help, I can connect you with someone. So I think maybe we're just kind of wired that way, where we want to be the person that helps people, that makes the connections. So I can totally understand that. Wanted to ask you, now that you're a year as a business owner, what advice would you give to someone that was starting their own business, regardless of the type of business? Is there anything specific that you learned?
Yeah, I mean, right, like the vast majority of businesses fail primarily for financial reasons. So try to be well capitalized, and that's where getting creative with different funding sources, I think, is important. Maybe ties into the home equity lines and things along those lines are interesting vehicles for capitalizing your business well, giving yourself some run rate. Second thing, move fast and break things. What I mean, I think people, when starting a business, it's not about being perfect. It's about executing, being really in tune with learning quickly where the mistakes are, where the process gaps are, and trying to fix them and make it good enough and move on.
Yep.
It's an iterative approach. You're not trying to build the perfect business day one. You're trying to constantly improve towards that. So
I think that's, regardless of if you're a new business or you've been in business for 20 years, I think that's good advice. I see it in my business. I spoke with the last guest that I had on about how you're always learning on the job. You can read books about starting businesses, but it doesn't matter until you're actually on the ground doing it. And you're going to break stuff, like you said, but you're going to learn, you're going to fix things. And that's something that if you're not doing that 10, 20 years into your business, you're probably slowly failing. So I think that's great advice.
And I think you always want to ensure your customers have a good experience, but I think that if you're kind of transparent and honest and earnest, and when you screw up or when something wasn't quite to your standard, and rather than trying to sweep that under the rug, say, hey, we screwed up on that. How can I make it better for you? And then how can we learn and do better next time? I think customers will almost respect that more than if you tried to sweep it under the rug and make it seem like nothing happened.
It's just about taking ownership. I think people can tell that you're genuine. You're a good person if you do that. It's not easy to do. Not everyone does that. A lot of times people deflect and place blame on others. If you can own situations and then show the customer you're learning from it, I think that's something they recognize and probably benefit in the long run.
We've benefited from, we've only had a handful of minor screw-ups here and there, and I've always made it a point to sort of personally reach out, engage, and in some instances just go and visit. And I can count on one hand the number of times that I've had to do that with my team on our screw-ups. But the customers, there's probably 2 or 3 instances where they would have been a negative review or they posted a negative review, but how we handled it, how we turned that situation around, they were all 5-star reviews.
And who's doing that in your business? No one's following up and going in for those FaceTime visits. I think it goes such a long way. And you actually reminded me of something about posting reviews. I feel like asking for handyman services on social media has got to be one of the most requested things. I see requests for mortgage people all the time, realtors all the time, but asking for someone that can do handyman jobs on social media is definitely in the top 5 for requests that I see. Is that something you're aware of? I know that I've thrown out your name on Facebook. Is that something that you've been able to capitalize on, or are you even aware of that sort of?
No, it's Great point. I think it's generically, I'm aware of it, but I haven't been able to execute or capitalize on it just yet. Not what I want to do.
Yeah.
I'd love to have someone part-time who is more engaged with social media and kind of getting us out there a little bit more, getting the word out a little bit more. But yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. The reason for that, kind of going back into it, is I think the tech world has tried to solve for this problem just through a platform only approach, right? They're trying to almost the Uberization of the trade, but it's way more complex, right? And way more complex than driving a car from A to B, and in some degrees. So not to knock like the Thumbtacks or the Porches or the Angies, there's some cool platforms out there, but I as a customer who's used those, it can be a very frustrating experience because it's not dependable. And then to the contractors, and as someone who has paid to use those services and put my business on Angie's, we don't do it now, but it's a quick way to generate leads. It's super expensive.
Is it?
When a lot of consumers don't know that when you go on Angie's to submit, like, I'm thinking about XYZ project, the contractors who receive that lead are paying like an algorithmic driven approach to it's anywhere from $30 to $80 to $120.
Yeah.
Just to get the lead, not even to like connect with you. So just to get, Randy Forcier's name and saying that he's thinking about maybe potentially.
Nothing too. I mean, it could be just someone that was putting it online. And we see the same thing in our business with mortgage leads or home buyer leads. It's a lot of times people are kicking the tires and it's a numbers game, but if it's $80, $100 a lead, that adds up quick.
Well, and I think it makes a tough situation to do that. So customers are doing that and trying to kind of get help, but because the contractor ecosystem has spent so much money on those leads, like they don't really want to respond, or they don't want to like turn themselves on because it's so expensive. So you have this ecosystem in the tech world that I think is definitely not fully optimized. So that's where I think it's still a good opportunity for a business like mine, where it's not necessarily a tech play, you know what I mean? But it's a customer experience. But we use really cool technology to deliver a good customer experience. But we're not like, we always say when someone calls us, all of our craftsmen, they're our employees, they work for us. So it's not like we're farming some call center in the middle of the country that's farming out jobs to random people.
Yes.
They're our team. So.
Well, that's awesome. I wanted to thank you for taking the time to talk today. When I was putting together a list of people I want to talk to on the podcast, you were one of those first people, just because of your background and a different approach that you have to handyman services and the success you've had with over 500 clients, if not closer to 1,000 in the past year, is a true testament to the way you run a business, way you focus on the client and the customer first. And I'm super pumped for all the success that you're having. So why don't you share the best way for people to find you?
Yeah, I think the easiest way is, and thank you, by the way, Randy, for having me on again and for those kind words. The easiest way for people to find us is to go to acehandymanservices.com and they put in their zip code and it'll launch and redirect them to our localized site. And with all our numbers and emails and everything, they can submit an inquiry. They can upload photos of their project right there on our website, make it super easy. The other, way is just Google. You can link up with us on our Google business page. You can link us up on, Facebook and Instagram. And Instagram in particular is something that I'm hoping to kind of revitalize our channel a little bit and get those Craftsman Chronicles and some cool how-tos out there. So, yeah.
Well, thanks again for joining us. I'll be sure to share all that information, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
Awesome. Thanks, Randy.
Thanks, bud.
Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.